Hello, I'm Lee Sanders. We hope you and your loved ones are safe as we learn to live through these unique and challenging times. Although my routines continue to change, I still talk with lots of people who love high school sports. We wanted to share some of these conversations in order to build community, focus on high school sports topics of interest to officials and others, connect our coaches and officials, and chat with talented Louisianians who are passionate supporters of our officiating community. Thanks for listening to The Right Call. We hope you enjoy today's discussion about communicating with coaches. We will hear from Brian Wynne, Harry Jenkins, and Michael Silver. How do I demonstrate approachability, guys? Brian, let's start with you.
Well, I mean, like I said before, it goes from the beginning. It's how you prepare, how you dress. You have to have the rules down cold. You have to have mechanics down cold. And then you have to know the game. And in knowing the game and the situation that's come up, I may approach a coach first and let him, hey, coach, this is what happened on that play, before he asks me a question. I may take the first act. But I'm going to be also listening. Your head's kind of on a swivel. You got your antenna up. You're paying full attention to everything that's going on before, during, and after a play, or with your partner, or with the fans, or any history between the two schools that you've got that you're working the game for. And so you pay attention to those things. And sometimes you can head trouble off at the pass by approaching the coach first. And then I think it makes him feel a little more comfortable coming back to you if he doesn't know you, to ask you a question and stuff like that. But you always have to be professional. You can't be overly stiff, overly rigid. And by the same token, you can't be overly friendly. You can't be joking around, slapping them on the back, things like that, because the other coach is watching just as well.
Harry, what does it mean for an official to be approachable?
Well, first of all, the body language has to really say, yeah, you can talk to me if you need to. It can be one of the situations where he's complaining about a call, but it's not my call because I'm at table side. And it all depends on how he approached me about my partner's call. And then when he does approach me, I'm always putting the question for him, what did you see? So this way, confrontation should be eliminated. And I'm going to tell him, coach, it's all about angles. You say, I was standing where you were. I trust my partner. He had a call. He made the call. I'm going to trust it.
Michael, how about you? How do you as an official demonstrate approachability?
I think a little bit different than what they're referring to in baseball and in basketball, where you have more time to interact with the coach. Approachability, when you're officiating a soccer game, has to be something that's more spur of the moment. So knowing that we don't have dead times in the game to where coach can't really banter back and forth at a stoppage, we have to be able to give quick verbal cues and hand signals and facial expressions that let the coach know that we're open to hearing what they're saying. I mean, things just like I hear you, or making sure that when you do hear the coach say something, you turn and acknowledge in some manner. Because if you just totally ignore it, then you come off as standoffish, and generally that's going to cause whatever the behavior is to get worse and worse because you're not doing anything to show that you're willing to listen and that you're human.
So, guys, I've heard each of you reference context, meaning the time, the place, the people involved, doing your homework, the background check, if you will, behind the game. So how important is it for officials to manage their coach interactions and the importance of context?
You know, if you have a rapport or a relationship with the coach that you've established over prior seasons, it's maybe not as important as it is if you do not have a relationship with the coach. He's a new coach to the area, or it's a playoff type game. But what I've talked to about with other officials is that, you know, at playoff time, coaches tend to be on better behavior because they don't know how quick our trigger is, and we don't know how quick their trigger is. You know,
well said. I like that.
You know, but you want things to devolve to an ejection. You want to be able to handle a situation. You want to be able to explain yourself. Oftentimes, when I interact with a coach, he's going to have the first word. I'm going to ask him, does he want to know what I saw? And then I'll tell him specifically. And oftentimes I'll use the phrase, coach, by rule, and I fill in the appropriate rule. And I'm going to use some language out of the rule book, some terms that should give him an indication that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm applying the rule correctly.
But can I stop for a second as someone who knows you and has watched you work? You know the rules well. What would you attribute your rules knowledge to?
Well, if you look at the 3 rule books that I read every year, they're kind of colored in yellow highlighter. They're underlined in black or blue ink. I've got notes written in the margin. I read them every year. I study them, talk to other officials about some plays. You can learn some things from things that National Federation posts online that you can study from. But by knowing the rules and applying them, you're going to get a fair outcome. And generally, it's been my experience both professionally and in this avocation, people say they like fair, but what they really like is I want special treatment coming my way. Use fair on the other guy, don't use fair on me. But our job as official is to communicate, number one, and to the fair application of the rules based on our knowledge, understanding, and our judgment, and to be as consistent as possible.
And to know the rules, it takes time. And I think your example there of the rule books, weathered and torn and highlighted, speaks to the passion of knowing the rules and understanding that it is the support by which you officiate and communicate with coaches effectively. Harry, what do you think?
Well, when it comes down to coaches in a regular season, it's all about credibility to me. A coach we can walk into the gym, the coach can see 2 veterans and one guy that he hasn't seen before, and maybe somebody he just don't care too much about. So coaches have a tendency to find out who's the weakest referee, and that's where he's going to put his efforts. But as veterans, when it comes down to coaches really talking about that particular referee, it is our job to let that coach know that's not going to happen. No, the call was right. Per rule, he did the right thing. Coach, give him a break. All right, let him talk to me. Let me know what you got. Talk to me. Don't worry about what he called. You talk to me. Those are the kind of situations that veterans have to step up and protect the young ones, because coaches have a tendency to just go after the weakest one they can find.
It's interesting you say that. This year we've had a couple of LHSOA prospect camps where we invited officials that met certain criteria from different parts of the state and brought them together. And recently one of the young guys asked, why is it that I make this call and the coach reacts this way, but such and such makes this call and the coach doesn't do the same thing? And that speaks to what you're saying. And Michael, tell your know, like, trust story, because I think it fits real well here.
So just a little 3-word deal I like to use all the time is know, like, trust. If a coach or a person knows you and they like you, then in general they're going to trust you. And those things go a long way. So maybe you know your rules. Your first impression that you've had with a coach, they know you now, and as they see you more and more, they trust what you're talking about and they like you. So when you make that bang call that could go either way, yeah, they may say something in the heat of the moment, but in general, because they know, like, and trust, the reaction that you're going to get and your response back to them in any discussion is going to be very different than the first time they see someone. Or if they've seen this person over and over again and don't have know, like, trust, then even though they may be just as good of an official with the other person on the floor with them or one of the other people on the field, because they haven't built that know, like, trust, they're not going to get the same level of respect from the coach, nor are they going to be able to take a situation and water it down and make it less of a situation. Each time they say something, it's gasoline being thrown and the fire's getting bigger and bigger. And in a know, like, trust situation, if they know, like, and trust the person, generally it's real easy to pour that whole gallon of water on it and put out that fire much faster.
So I think Brian, Harry, and you now have spoken to the importance of just a professional relationship built on respect that is set up the moment you arrive, from the way you look to how you conduct yourself.
Could I add something to what Harry said about trying to protect younger officials? I mean, I'll point blank tell a coach, he's a new official. We have a shortage of officials. If you run him off, we're not going to have anybody to work the games. Let me work with him and give him a chance to learn. Everybody's new. Everybody's new at some point, and everybody has to learn. And then in private, talk to the official about, hey, this is what's going on. You're seeing this pitch or you're seeing this play, but you're missing what's really going on behind the scenes. And then as he gets more experience, he's going to learn. But we do have to protect those younger officials.
Yeah, and just to add kind of what Brian was saying with that, in soccer, we're lucky we have referee and assistant referee. So many of your first-timers start out as assistant referees, people with the flags on the side of the field. So our senior officials that are working with these guys, my line for what I'll allow a coach to say to one of my ARs, especially my newer ARs, is much different than what they can say to me. And I will tell the coach, we have a situation, hey, coach, I hear you, but anything you've got that you need to tell him, tell me. I'm the one that's responsible. I've got the ultimate responsibility for the call. So my goal is to take any pressure off this new person and to tell me whatever the issue is. I also tell my ARs, if a coach says something about one of your calls or whatever, remember, we're a team out here and we're pointing whatever. Your answer to a coach can always be, and point to me and say, I made the call, and then let them address it with me. I don't want to put new officials in a position to where they're trying to explain something that from a rules base they may not yet get, or they may have made a mistake, but they're not to the point to where they've built that know-like trust to say, hey, I missed it, or I'm not sure.
Lee, additionally, just when it comes down to Brian's and Mike's comment, a young official is going to go to a veteran official and just ask the question, what's up? What's going on? I say, well, credibility is nothing you can go buy from the store. It's something that you have to earn. And the best way to earn it is to listen to what the coach has to say and then look at the video. And I'll tell the coach in a minute, coach, send me the video to huddle. I'll look at it. This is a teaching moment. I say I have a great takeaway. Send it to me so we can go over and review it. And if a coach hears that and they hear the word teaching moment, they may not be happy with the call, but at least they know that we're not sitting here resting on our laurels, if you will. We're trying to get better, okay? And that's what I want. And I encourage the coaches going forward. If there's a play you want to talk about, send me a clip of the play, but send me something so I can look at the whole game, because I just don't want one small item, because that one small item really doesn't tell a story, So those are the kind of comments I make to coaches, because I want to put some ownership on them. Put forth some effort, send me the video. If it's that important to you, let me look at it.
How can questions help officials manage interactions with coaches? Questions, Brian?
Well, what I try and do is I'll try and ask the coach a question of, does he want to know what I saw? And then that's this way I can kind of take control of the conversation. And the answer to the question is either yes or no. If he wants to know what I saw, I'm going to tell him. So therefore, I need to be in position. I need to be set. I need to see what I'm going to see and to be able to articulate it to him. If he says no, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say, okay, let's play ball. And I'm going to turn around and run back to my position. And then usually if I've run back to my position and he's not gone back to his, it's probably not going to end well. But also, if he comes towards me, then everybody in that ballpark will know who the aggressor was. And I'm just defending myself. And like I said, it's probably not going to end well for him. And that's how you can answer. You can also ask things because I'll talk to players, how many seniors you got, how many juniors you got an experienced team, things like that. What's your record, to find out what's going on with them. But you can also ask them questions if they're having a bad day or making sure somebody's not hurt. Working around the plate, I talk to the catcher for business purposes for the most part. But if he gets hit by a foul ball, I'm calling time. I'm walking out to the pitcher real slow to give him a ball. I'm coming back to ask the catcher, are you okay? And then I'm going to real slowly clean the plate. And then I'm going to turn around and we'll point the ball live. So you can do things that way.
And talk about building no trust with the catcher, right, Brian? Because you're back there in it together. And that little thing matters a lot.
Well, the coaches know when they see, if they see me walk out to the mound and they see a foul tip caught the catcher, they know what's going on. It's like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. He's protecting our catcher. And so that'll buy you some credibility as well. A lot of times what I do, especially in baseball, you really can't do it in volleyball or football, is I have a lineup card in my pocket when I'm working the plate, and I'll pull it out as the coach is passing me at some point where there's a natural progression where he's going to pass me if I'm going up the third base line in between innings, or I'm going up the first base line, and I'll take out my lineup card and I'll take out my pencil, and I'll tell him, Coach, I'm having trouble with this guy, and I'm pointing to the guy's name. And sometimes it's his name. And I'll ask him, if you can take care of it, I appreciate it. But if you don't, I will. And then I put my lineup card away, because everybody thinks I'm asking them a question about the lineup. Nobody knows what's going on between us.
And how everyone perceives that is so critical to the success of the strategy.
Yes, absolutely, because you never want to take your mask off from behind home plate and bark at a dugout or something like that. You want to try and do it face-to-face. Ask them, hey, can you take care of this guy for me? And the coaches know their players, and they know the ones that are going to give us trouble. But also when I point to his name, he gets it that something's going to happen, and if it's going to happen to him. And if I point to an assistant, to me, an assistant coach in any sport is a free shot. I don't need an assistant coach to finish a game. When I've taken action against an assistant, as in football, throw a flag on him for unsportsmanlike, or baseball, eject him, everybody looks around and thinks, this guy's a jerk, but he's a serious jerk, and he'll do it to us. And people start to behave so much better. The role of assistants to me can be a positive or a negative, because they are adults and they're role models. And if the assistants are chirping back and forth at the other team or the other players or at the officials, and the kids see that, the kids pick up on it, and then my problems start to multiply. So if I get rid of the assistant, everything calms down. I might take something more off a head coach than an assistant that the head coach can get away with, as we have repartee back and forth. But you can ask questions that way, and you want to try and keep people in the game. You don't really want to eject anybody, but if you have to, it makes things simpler. And it's like I've found, we have a saying on our crew, it's be a jerk early, but we use a different word. And they get the message, and they get the message. They get the message, and things go a lot smoother for us. You don't want to be ugly to people, but sometimes you have to be. And then they know you're serious, they know you're businesslike, and the game goes like it should go. It's smooth, and you have a good outcome.
Thanks for listening to The Right Call. Stay tuned for the conclusion of this discussion about communicating with coaches.